Hello, everyone. We are live. Welcome to our live session today. I'm Adam McQueen. I lead our content product marketing crew here at Klue, and I'm joined by my co-host, co-MC, the person that's going to be making sure we're running smoothly today. It's Jenna. Jenna, what's going on?
Hello, excited for this one. This will be a fun one. My name's Jenna. I run enablement here at Klue. Big focus of my role is I also run our internal win-loss program. So really excited for MCP and to hear from you all a little bit on how we're thinking about using MCP operating in this new world of AI. This should be fun.
Everyone that's tuning in, I'm sure folks are starting to trickle in. Jenna and I don't want to feel like we're just talking into the void here, so let us know in the chat. Where are you tuning in from? It's really rainy and gloomy in Vancouver. Winter is whoever's in the most tropical or sunny spot right now, just to give us some FOMO. So let us know in the chat where we're tuning in from. Hi, Bert.
Wow, Dubai.
I don't know. We've had beautiful sun, but today it decided we're gonna have a typical Vancouver day. So yeah, let us know where you're coming in for. Dylan, what's going on, Tira? Oh, we got some friendly faces. Excited for this. Jenna, before I hand it over to you to kind of give a lay of the land on the agenda, what to expect, all the fun things we can get into. We asked this question for folks when they were signing up, but I'm going to throw it out there again. Home of two.
Oh boy.
March Madness. We got a cornball on Friday night. Before we get into the session, I want to ask the question again for folks. So drop this one in the chat. But there's so many workflows being built. Everyone's sharing all these different things that they can do now with AI. If you had a magic wand, you could automate one part of your CI workflow or product marketing workflow with AI. What would it be and why? I'd love to get a few in the chat. Maybe we'll address a few of them today. We'll see. But I'm just curious how people are starting to think about this as we get into this session. Jenna, you want to let the folks know what to expect?
Yeah, definitely. So we got a full lineup. We have quite a few guests who are going to be joining us today. We're going to kick things off by focusing on we're going to show you guys four different use cases for how our own internal teams are starting to use the Klue MCP server. So we've got a seller, Zach. He's going to come in. He's going to share a bit about how he's been using the Klue MCP server to write emails for him. So his prospecting emails he has mid-deal, how he's including Klue in some of those communications that are going out. Then we have our own AI ops wizard, Isaac. He'll come on and talk a bit about emails at scale. So how he's taken our MCP server and created a system for how our sellers can use MCP in their day-to-days. And then, Adam, you're going to get on stage, show us a little bit of a CI breakdown that you did of our webpage, like a competitive comparison page, which is pretty cool that you built out. I'm excited for that one. I will show you a competitive overview that I did, looking at some of our wins and losses using the MCP. And then we're going to finish with two amazing customers going to come on stage, and we'll do an open Q&A. That's where we want to hear from you in the audience. What questions do you have? And yeah, we'll get the pros who are out there doing it in the real world talking about their experiences.
For sure. And as always with these sessions, if you've been to these before, ask questions whenever, make comments whenever. I like to react to stuff that's happening in the chat. We'll bring them in as we go. We'll have some time at the end as well to do Q&A with some customers, with some folks. But anything going on today, anything that pops up as we're showing stuff, drop it in there and we'll address it as quickly as we can as well.
Yeah.
And yes, Tim, this will be recorded. But that doesn't mean you're allowed to leave us early, though.
No way. Love some of the examples there in the chat. Updating battle cards, keeping up on recent developments. Those are great. Okay, so we're going to kick things off. I'm going to hand it over to Adam. He's going to give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. Tee us up with our Klue engine. Obviously, we're talking all about the Klue MCP, but how does it actually work? Like what's behind the scenes? So he's going to take us through a little walkthrough of the Klue engine.
Cool. All right. Before we get into all of the fun stuff, I pulled all of these posts from my LinkedIn feed last week. And I literally think it probably took me maybe like 2 minutes of scrolling. And that's because everyone is building right now. Everyone's posting about building. Everyone's showing a new workflow. And honestly, it's really, really exciting. I mean, it's why we're all here. I think it's super exciting for PMMs and CI leaders, the way that we can think about automating more redundant tasks, even reimagining some of the workflows that we've traditionally had to do throughout our careers. And so it's really exciting. But before we get into the workflows, I just want to take one beat to ask folks, is your data keeping up with what you're building? And what I mean by that is all of us have played around at this point. I'd say near unanimously, we've played with a GPT, a Claude, a Gemini, something out the box. Your reps, maybe yourself, maybe some folks in the org have asked a competitive question. And it looks pretty good, pretty solid at first glance. Then you kind of scratch the surface a little bit and you see what's powering the answer. You've got broken links. You got 404 errors, maybe a Reddit thread from 2 years ago. Maybe a bunch of your competitors' own blogs are fueling the answer. And that's only with out-the-box LLMs. But the bigger picture here is whatever data you point your AI towards, the quality of that and how you process that is going to determine everything downstream. And so not even just an out-the-box LLM. I think we kind of understand the limitations that come with that. But let's say you dump a bunch of docs index into a notebook LLM. Maybe you actually start to link up your live data, your internal G drive, your call recordings. But here's what's actually happening under hood with those systems as it relates to producing competitive answers as well. You dump in your data. Let's say you got your call transcripts, your G2 reviews, your decks, your docs. It's going to get indexed by the RAG, and it's going to be indexed into millions of chunks. So when someone asks a question, the LLM is then going to go hunting through all of it to find the relevant pieces. This is what we've like to call at Klue the retrieval lottery. And we've seen this with a bunch of folks that have started to try and build their own kind of compete data engine. Sometimes it's going to find the right thing, and oftentimes it doesn't. And that's because when you're running this across a really, really large data set, you might get 2 reps ask really similar questions and get completely contradicting answers because the system is going to pull potentially from different chunks each time. And so where there's a standard RAG system is going to store your raw data. It's going to collect all of that data. It's going to generate insights or find answers from it on the fly when a question gets asked. It's going to search the warehouse and try and find that needle in a haystack. But what Klue and what our Stacks engine, streaming agents of Klue as we lovingly call it here, how it does it differently is it uses streaming agents to go through your data proactively. We're going to generate the insights first before questions are even asked, and then we're going to store those insights. So by the time anyone asks a question, the answer isn't being built from scratch from a pile of raw data. It's being pulled from a pre-generated and organized intel. So the context window where your LLM is working from is clean, it's relevant, and it's grounded in the same source of truth. So what does that actually look like in practice? I was talking to our VP of engineering, trying to wrap my head around, this is a lot of technical stuff. What does this actually mean for us? And he shared with me, think about it like a mail sorting system. Before your cells even ask a question, Klue's agents are already going out there through all of your data, your call transcripts, your win-loss interviews, your G2 reviews, competitive page updates, all of that, and it's sorting through it and organizing it. So pricing signals go in one box. And not just like, here's the pricing page, but pricing shifted and the market perception of the pricing model your competitor has updated. Or objection patterns in another one. And not just these are the objections coming up, but these are the ones that came up in 11 deals, and here's the 3 responses that are being received most positively from buyers. Win reasons, breakdowns based on buyer requirements. All of these agents are pre-loading the context window for your LLM with these insights. And so when a rep asks something like, what's the latest on the CompareX pricing? The answer isn't going through a mountain of raw data and hoping it finds the right thing. It's actually pulling from something pre-sorted, pre-generated, and that was already there waiting. So I really wanted to kind of emphasize what this is, what the source of truth that Klue's system is providing, rather than what we can build on top of this, because this is what powers any of the workflows we're about to show today. If you don't have a trusted compete data engine, something you can actually rely on to provide accurate answers, then all of the work we're doing on top of this presents risk. And so what we're doing here, we're going to be producing a really rich set of data that's going to be implemented into whatever tools, whatever LLM you're using, whatever workflows you want to build. And that's the foundation of everything that we're going to get through today. So there's a little bit of my spiel here, and maybe we'll flip it over to some of the fun workflows that we're building on top of this data now. Who we got first, Jenna?
First up, we've got Zach. So Zach is going to show us 2 seller workflows. Zach is a superstar AE here at Klue. He's going to come on and show us a couple seller workflows. Oh, hello, Zach. How you doing?
What up, Zach?
Good, good. How are you guys doing?
Good. What do you got for us today?
Yeah, I got a couple. I think they're pretty cool. They're probably going to be pretty elementary compared to what Adam, Jenna, and Isaac are going to show you guys. So excited to start the day off here. Yeah, I'm an account executive here at Klue. So these are some of the workflows that, you know, myself, I go through, and then I also work with hundreds of prospects or customers a year in terms of developing them internally as well. So really excited to walk you guys through a couple workflows. Let me just start off by sharing my screen. There we go. So yeah, 2 main workflows here today. One is going to be geared more towards prospecting, and then I'll get into another one when it comes to adding a little bit more deal context to a potential email. So I want to start off with prospecting because it's relevant for me as an AE if I'm trying to break into account, or SDRs, BDRs. You know, we know maybe one of your or their accounts has a competitor. They're currently using them. So how can we deposition? How can we get that meeting set? How can we try and get them to switch over to our tool? So as you can see here, a pretty simple prompt. Can you help me draft an email to a prospect about why Klue typically wins against Crayon? I'm using my demo instance, so a lot of this stuff is dummy data, by the way. But yeah, this is really all you would have to put in. I added in a little bit of extra context because I find that Claude asked me a lot of follow-up questions, and I didn't want to put you guys through that. So yeah, and then let's jump into what Claude starts thinking and some of the output. So right off the bat, you're going to see a running skill right here, and that skill is actually my email writer. So Isaac, who you guys are going to meet in a little bit, actually gave every go-to-market employee a writing profile here at Klue. So I put that into Claude, had it attached to a skill. So whenever I ask it to help me with an email, it immediately matches my tonality, everything like that. And then we can start to see Claude shifts. Okay, we have the email style. Let's shift into more of the competitive material, right? Instead of immediately going out there, searching the public web, maybe pulling from untrusted sources, it's first going to go in and say, let me check if there's data in Klue that I can use. Okay, great. It's going to look through some tools. It's going to go to the battle card. And then you can see down here, it actually extracts that battle card. You can also see over here, it's connecting to our MCP, which is great. We love to see that. I didn't even ask it to do it. So it's knowing, hey, I brought up a competitor. Let's start looking through Klue. And then we can see it starts to pick out some really good information. Once we have some of that insight, it's going to say, okay, great. We have all of this data. Now let's match it to Zach's style, tone, and then it starts to spit out a really good email. And it's not just, hey, here's why Klue is typically better. It knows that the account I'm going after is currently using Crayon. So let's talk about maybe some of the downfalls we typically hear from folks we're working with, and then how Klue actually combats that. And it also attached to a case study, which is awesome. So yeah, pretty easy way to immediately break into an account, draft a prospecting email, once again, for AEs like myself, or even SDRs, BDRs, whoever is doing this sort of stuff. And when I'm feeling a little bit lazier, I can then ask Claude, hey, actually draft this into my inbox for me, or better yet, send this out, right? This is great. Here's the email address. Send this, please. So yeah, this is the first workflow that I want to show you guys. I want to jump into another one that's probably going to be better suited for account executives. Let's say we just had a demo. How can I take all the good insights that I just learned and then deploy that value in a follow-up email? So for this prompt, I asked, can you help me draft a follow-up email to a prospect sharing how we are better than Crown, please refer to the deal tip I got from Klue to find the relevant talking points. Once again, this is probably all you need to do. I added in exactly where to find the deal tip, so it wouldn't show 8 deal tips and ask me which one I'm choosing from and everyone I'm working with. So yeah, but for those of you who don't know what a deal tip is when Klue is picking up, hey, we just had a demo, a competitor was brought into this call. Let's not stop there. Let's actually analyze the entire transcript to figure out what's actually relevant to our prospect or customer, right? Let's figure out through the discovery process, what exactly do they care about in this deal? Once we have, let's say, maybe 5 key requirements, then let's go into Klue and map back to how we're better than Crown in this case for each of those 5 key requirements. So going really from, your typical why we win follow-up, right? Here are the top 3 reasons we typically see, all of a sudden to saying, hey, you told me you care about these things. This is exactly how we're better at each of these things. So really bringing in that value differentiation. And that's exactly what I asked Claude to do here. So if we go once again into the brain, it's saying, hey, let's use the Zach email writer skill. Fantastic. And then let's start looking through the Gmail message. One piece of the deal tip actually that's extremely important that I didn't explain is that we proactively send it to your reps. So that could be through email or Slack, which is why I'm calling it to look through email. So instead of necessarily going into Klue, I'm saying, hey, Klue already drafted me this incredible deal tip. It has all the deal context involved in it. Go look for that email specifically and bring that into a follow-up email. So we can kind of see here, it's searching through the Gmail. It found everything that I wanted it to. It's bringing up those key requirements, which we can see in the deal tip right here. And then it's mapping it to a follow-up email. And then for this case, I did say, hey, can you draft me or draft this in my inbox? So I'll show you guys what that looks like. Let me just jump over. There we go. Okay, hopefully you can see my email here. And there we go. So it took that email, pulling from, once again, my writing style, the deal tip I got from Klue, and then turned that into a really good follow-up email saying, not just why we win, but based on what you actually shared with us, these are the top things that you care about. Here's exactly how Klue is better than Crown in this case. And it's polished, ready for me to ship. So yeah, kind of 2 different workflows that I want to show you guys there. One for the prospecting that really anyone who is prospecting can use, and then a deal context specific one, right? How can I immediately get value to my prospects post call and not worry if we're pulling from hallucinated information? I'm trusting that it's pulling from Klue, which is what I care about. So yeah.
Do you typically see, Zach, some when we were talking about the trusted data, some of the things that Klue typically pulls from that kind of powers maybe the powers some of the the points that it's giving you on that deal tip?
Yeah, and I think the beauty. So I use this point all the time where it's like, if someone was to corner me in an elevator and was like, hey, how are you better than Crown, for example, I'm immediately going to go back to the top why we win reasons that I know. But the beauty of the deal tip is that it's taking not the top win reasons. Chances are what I'm getting in a deal tip isn't what I would say is those top win reasons, but it's actually going back to that value. And depending on what my prospect or customer told me they care about, it pulls from the unique things within the Stacks engine that you shared earlier, Adam. So of course, the talk tracks that win out there in the field that we're hearing, it pulls a lot from win stories, from recent competitive won deals. If there's something specific to product or pricing, then it can pull from those stacks. It's it's been super beneficial.
Cool.
That's awesome, Zach. I love that you're really experimenting with co-work within this. I know that's a new hot tool that everyone's been playing around with. I'm curious, if you were to try and find out all that information yourself, what to say, how to position it, how much time would that take you in a normal day?
Yeah, so I can go back to what I would do before we got access to co-work and everything like that, and even then I'm using a little bit of AI, but it's still fairly complex, right? So I'm typically going into Klue. Thankfully, we work here. I can go into Klue, but if we didn't have Klue, probably going into a slide deck or something like that. I'm probably looking through those top win reasons, trying to think about what my prospect cared about, right? The unlimited competitor tracking, pretty good example. If they only had a few competitors, probably not going to bring that point. So trying to do a little bit of mental math there in terms of what's important. picking out those key points, writing it in an email, copying it into ChatGPT, saying, "Hey, can you clean this up? I'm in a rush, not speaking very clearly," and then probably copying that back into an email. So obviously, not only taking probably 15 to 30 minutes to actually craft that, but also having to jump into so many different tools, which is a bit of a pain. Co-work and being able to connect to different tools has been a huge time saver. Yeah.
Cool. And Derek in the chat kind of teed us up for our next speaker too, asking, could you attach like customer evidence, something that proves these as well to that email? And that's exactly what our guy Isaac is going to share as well for his email writer. Oh, he's muted. He's done the classic mute.
Oh, for my job being purely technology, I'm so bad at technology. As Adam said, my name's Isaac. I lead AI ops here for our go-to-market team. But yeah, let's jump into this. It's my job here, amongst other things, to look for places where we can build things that are better than what we can buy. And it's not because like there's any special background I have. It's a pretty simple recipe. It's basically just where can we add context that tool wouldn't necessarily have. So today I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to use an example that Zach already touched on. Now, Zach uses Claude Cowork to do things that are specific to him, but there's some things that are going to scale across our whole go-to-market org. And so it's a lot more efficient to do them centrally. Also, there's just some compliance elements. And as Derek mentioned, we also want to be able to tie in some of that cool content that Adam and his team makes. So I'm going to show you how we do that. So let me just start sharing my screen here. Oh, no, not slide, screen. All right. Adam, can you see my screen all right here?
I got you. Everyone in the chat, you can see it. Do we need to zoom in or are we good? I can see it fine.
All right, so I'm going to show you how the entire organization here does follow-up emails. So this is an example, like every organization sends follow-up emails when they have a call. So here at Klue, we're a combination Zapier and N8N shop. So we build these building blocks in N8N, and then we put the Legos together in Zapier. So this is what happens every time somebody at Klue gets off a call. So first step here, we use Gong. So Gong sends a webhook to this workflow. We just use a simple little AI step to classify all the metadata that we need. We then load our AI configuration. So here at Klue, we manage our AI centrally. So rather than putting in like ChatGPT 5.4, we put in, we want our writing AI or our code AI. And then we update it centrally as new models are released. So like we don't have to go through and update everything. Any changes we make proliferate down through everything. So then we fetch the transcript. So this is the first of these building blocks that I was talking about. I'm not going to walk through it in a ton of detail, but so we call this little N8N workflow that finds the transcript for that call and optimizes it for an AI. And I should mention here, for anybody that does want like the recipe, any of the templates, any of the information, just reach out to whoever your contact here is at Klue. Happy to get on the phone, walk you through it, share anything that I've done, any of the prompts. So they'll set that up for you. They'll throw some time in our calendar. So cool. We've got the transcript. Next, we're going to get the writing profile. And Zach mentioned this in his part here, but every week we map every person that sends out emails at Klue across about 300 different data points, from how they sign off to how they challenge perspectives, how they present lists, even how they use grammar, not necessarily like correctly, but just like how they use it. Zach's, I always like, is kind of a funny one. The way Zach uses emojis, he very seldom uses them, but when he does, he makes his smiley faces backwards. So that like picks up little minute things like that to make it feel like it's actually human. So then the next piece of context is the conversation dynamic. So there's kind of three core elements of context here that we're adding: the person, the conversation, and then Klue, which is sort of the secret sauce on top. Again, another one of these little N8N workflows. Sorry, a guy there. And now what this does is it takes everybody that was on the call and it looks at all emails that have been exchanged between them and Klue over the last 3 months. So it can pick up on the dynamic of the conversation. You know, is it new and formal? Have they been a customer for 5 years? Are there inside jokes? Is there banter? That sort of thing. Then we quickly get our playbook, which is like our system prompt. We get any assets that are available. To Derek's question, this is going to include everything from case studies to like NDAs, basic documentation we have to send out, help docs, all that stuff. So the AI can see what's available and decide if it wants to put something in. Now, I'm going to show without Klue first, just so you get some contrast. So I've added this little extra arm in here so I can show without Klue. So basically it goes in, picks, should I put in an asset? Let's see what it says here. So cool. I want to use the how greenhouse built self-updating battle cards case study. Cool. I'm going to use an AI to write it, another AI to format the HTML for an email, and we're going to put it as a draft in my inbox. So let's take a look at it, see what that looks like.
So this is the one without Klue or with Klue?
This is without Klue. So we just got a nice little email that sounds like Zach. I'm not going to go through it in a ton of detail, but you have this nice little email. Now, when we go and do it with Klue, let's go back over to this other arm. Now, what we do is we use an AI to take all that information that we now know, and we're writing a specific query for Klue's MCP based on what this person is looking for. This is an actual conversation from Zach from last week. I've just anonymized the company, the names, but this is coming from a real transcript. So cool. We take that, and then we call Klue's MCP. I prefer not to do it directly. We use these building blocks so I can reuse them. I don't like. It's like everything is kind of these Lego blocks that gets assembled together. It's kind of how we future-proof as things evolve. We can kind of sub in Lego blocks or update the Lego blocks rather than updating the full workflows. But just calls a simple little N8 workflow, N8 N workflow. I won't go into super deep detail, but basically it's just two paths. If I just want to know what's available, it calls this path. In today's example, I actually want the information. So it calls this bottom path, and it gets me a whole bunch of information on win-loss stories, where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses, where our competitors have strengths, where our competitors have weaknesses. Then we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to select an asset. This time it's selecting a different one based on the Klue information. So it's looking at a Blackbaud case study. Write the email, we extract the HTML, and we put it in our drafts. Now I'm going to show you what the differences are. I've added a little extra formatting so you can see it. We don't have to read through all of the information here on the call today. So let's just let it load here for a second. Okay, so here is the new one. So I've added in some color so that you can actually see it. And it corresponds to what it's doing down here at the bottom. So for the yellow, first thing is, so we know from our loss stories, a lot of time when we lose to Crayon, it's because it's too hard to unseat the status quo. So here, because we have that information from Klue, the AI is already trying to deposition the status quo. And you can see kind of the explanation down here by making the cost of good enough feel immediate. So in this case, it's reclaiming time, and it picks up on the manual upkeep in the areas that they're looking at that wouldn't be manual within Klue. The other thing, so if we look at the blue, now, one of the other differences between us and Crayon, not good or bad, is just the pricing structure. So certain situations it's getting more expensive in Klue, certain situations it's getting more expensive in Crayon. So it picks up on what they have said in terms of their use case. I've used Jenna. I subbed Jenna in for the actual person's name. So Jenna stated that they want to add their tier 2 and their niche competitors. So they're going to have a ton of competitors in there because Klue offers unlimited competitors. It's going to be a lot less expensive for them to use Klue. So we're anchoring that in the follow-up email. Moving on to the pink, one of the other things that we have seen from a lot of our feedback from our win-loss interviews is that in terms of just features to features, it kind of feels commoditized because a lot of them are very, very similar. So rather than trying to unseat somebody based on features that are perceived similar, we're again going to shift away from that, and we're going to look at adoption, because if everything else is the same, the platform that gets better adoption is going to be the one that drives the most impact. So we're anchoring towards adoption. And then this final one, the green. Now, the green is actually not up there, but this is why it picked that asset. Now, this anchors better in a scenario that is going to be very similar to what the person described on the call. So this is another one of our customers where we were able to unseat our competitor, and it calls out tangible metrics that they saw. So like in a head-to-head comparison, this gives Jenna specific numbers to justify that switch internally, not just feature claims, which can kind of be easily dismissed by the incumbent. So that's what we use pretty much every time there's a follow-up email at Klue. Many of you probably have received one of these not knowing that it was coming from an AI, because we try really hard to make sure that it sounds human. But that is how we drink our own champagne.
Thank you, Isaac. This This one's really cool. And for other folks here as well, that maybe I personally get a little lost in the sauce once Isaac pops a chunk on an N8N workflow, hit him up. It is a little bit simpler as he walks through it behind the scenes. We obviously can't take all the time there, but maybe Isaac, drop your LinkedIn or something like that in the chat, and folks can hit you up to see how they could put together that workflow and see exactly how they can build that.
Will do.
All right. Thank you, Isaac. Jenna, who's next? Is it me or you? Who wants to go first? Should we rock,
You're up
paper,
next,
scissors?
Adam. You're up next.
I'm up
Everyone
next?
wants to see your competitor comparison page.
Okay,
What they
cool.
want.
So one of the things I think someone mentioned in the chat, like AI, where they could use AI is to help with stale documents, stale assets. And that's a huge one that I'm thinking about. I'm a product marketing team of one, and my competitive comparison page is so out of date right now. Like I don't want people to go find it, see it. It's way out of date, and that's just kind of par for the course when you publish these landing pages and you're a lean team. And so when we were thinking through what are different ways we could use MCP, what is different ways we could actually like infuse Klue data into some of the work we're doing, that was one of the first things that came to mind for me. And so I'll pull this up on Claude. I've already preset some prompts so we can be a little bit quicker here for this. But let's hop on over. Which window? We're going into Claude here. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in a wee bit here. Maybe that's a little much. So what I wanted it to do was to do an audit of our comparison page. One of our comparison pages, our competitor's own comparison page on us. And then go into Klue and just review, hey, are these the most relevant differentiators we should be hammering? What's the social proof that I can use within this page? And how should I be changing or tweaking my angle? And so what Klue did here is it started to look through the competitive landing page skills. So I built a skill in Claude on that. It's going to start to sort of analyze both the pages, both ours and our competitors. And then it queries Klue's MCP. And it's going to start looking through our cards on that competitor. It's going to look through win stories. It's going to look through loss stories. It's going to look through talk tracks. It's going to look through what buyers are saying about the competition in sales calls. And so that's what it was doing during that analysis side. And here's like a high level, and obviously I've anonymized this for marketing purposes. But what is really interesting here is before even getting into the differentiators, they mentioned that this just has a structural problem. This is around a 2022 era competitive narrative. And spoiler alert, it probably hasn't been updated much recently than 2022. And so that core frame even identifies it's like, oh, that's stuff that you guys used to hammer and win on back in the day, but you need to update. You need to be back where you're actually winning today. And so it looked at the central argument that the page should make, and then it really hammered our key differentiators. And I'm a product marketer, so I kind of know, yes, this feels directionally right. I'm sure Zach, our AEs, can look at this and say, yeah, this is some of the angles that really work. And so what it would look at is, hey, deal-specific competitive intel. What's the claim? But what I really like it's not just making stuff up. It's not hallucinating. It's like, what's the evidence that is saying that why this should be your lead differentiator in your comparison page? And it's going to cite multiple win stories because sales enablement was way better than the raw data dump they saw with a competitor. When we assessed this through Gong, we saw like successful deals closed when we mentioned this sort of generation of auto insights or win-loss stories for sellers. And then we even, again, I anonymized this, but a prospect mentioned that there was such like a low adoption for sellers and deal-specific intel that their Slack channel had more. So I'm just getting a lot of evidence from Klue to validate this differentiator and how we should message. Another one, which is like a no-brainer that's not on the page, and I'm just kind of outing myself of being a bad product marketer right now, so it's okay. But unified CI and win-loss, we know that's a big differentiator. Jenna knows that. And it wasn't in our page. And what it's done here is it's saying, yo, you need to bring this up. This needs to be a key point of how you sell. And we have win stories. We have cards, we have Gong calls. They're all validating. People are picking because of this. Now, I'm sure high competitors are probably watching this as well. But yeah, this is one of the ways in which we are looking at using the kind of current verified data on what our differentiators are, what's working in deals, to then work into our marketing collateral. So I'm just going to quickly flip over because it's done this audit, it's done this suggestion, and I'm sure lots of folks have kind of worked on this before, but what it does really well is it then can bring this into like a really mocked up quick template that I can get to brand. Now, this isn't perfect. We won't publish this exactly. It's not our brand colors. I probably want to do a couple of tweaks, but it's pulled all of those sort of key differentiators and laid it out for me with like building blocks I can tweak. It's even starting to get some of the quotes that are within Klue from our win stories and things like that, that really gets me a massive starting point in terms of building one of these things. I don't have to like go back and forth with brand, building all the wireframe, looking for those differentiators. Like it's already there for me. And now I'm in a way stronger starting spot to produce an asset that always falls out of date if you're a product marketer. So that's my use case. I'm not sure if other folks have that resonate with the landing page, the comparison page falling out date the moment you publish it. But yeah, Jenna, let's go to you.
Yeah, I think I just want to call out what's really interesting there. Like that would have been such a manual lift for you to have to analyze that information. And then even before, like you would have then had to go back into Klue and sort of said, okay, Klue, like here's what I learned. Help me think of differentiations, and then back to another tool that's going to do the end output. Doing it all in one place, accessing our MCP server directly in the tools that you want to work with is so impactful. And it was neat to see the output that it produced within seconds.
Yeah, I was fired up on that one. I'm excited. Jenna, you've got a use case, and then we have some awesome customers that are waiting patiently for us in the waiting room. So let's get to your example. And then folks, if you've got any questions, get them ready. And we'll have some customers sharing as well, what they're doing and what they're thinking.
Perfect. Yes. Let's get these customers on stage here. So I will be quick. Everyone can see that okay? Yep. You see my Claude, Adam?
I got you, Claude.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here's a use case that I was working on. So essentially, I was given a task. I'm sure many of the competitive pros sitting on this call can sort of relate to some of this. I'm new to doing compete at my organization, and I was just learning, and I needed to get up to speed on one of our competitors pretty quick. We noticed some trends in our deals. Leadership wanted a bit of a download on like what's actually happening in these deals, like what's going on with this competitor, how can we position ourselves, and like how can we start to think a bit more strategically about some of the tactics that we're using in these competitive deals. And I was kind of like, where do I start? There's so many different places like I could go to find this information. And, I was like, okay, where obviously working at Klue, I wanted to come to Klue first. And I said, I'm going to try out the MCP server so I can play around with the end output a bit. So what you're looking at here, this is a prompt. I'm a classic, I'll write the crappy prompt myself, tell AI to write a better prompt for me. So this is the prompt that Claude actually came up for me based on the project. I gave it a little bit of context. I told it to search our Klue MCP. I was a bit more specific. You don't need to be quite this specific, that it'll still pull the MCP. And then I asked it to figure out the findings, pull it into why we wins, why we lose. And then for the end output, I wanted it to be just a simple visual mock-up that I could share with our leadership team. And then because I'm showing it on the webinar, I also included a bit of details around, let's anonymize this data. So what I'm showing isn't real deal data with you all. So I put that in and it takes a few minutes to load. So I'm going to show you the end output. And so what Claude built for me is this live competitive brief, and it's all based on data that it pulled from Klue. I don't know how many of you have played around with our win and loss stories. I find those to be really, really powerful sources of information, as well as I run win-loss interviews as well. And so this is what it was able to distill very quickly for me. It looked at a number of deals, again, not real data here, but it looked at a number of deals from Klue and started to pull out just specific win reasons. Something that's really hard when I've done these on my own in the past is getting quotes. Like these can be, I've searched through gong calls, I've tried to find these clips. Klue already distilled these quotes for me in our win-loss stories, and it pulled these directly into the actual findings, which I thought was great, and it linked it. So you'll see these will actually click, I won't open it, but it'll take you to the Klue card that this information pulled from. So it's trusted information, it's backed up. You can take it to a call clip and watch the prospect say that particular clip live if you're showing it to leadership. So this was, the report. It's like pretty specific into different patterns that we're seeing. It goes into, where we're leading, where our competitor might have a little bit of an edge, how we can differentiate. And my favorite part is this action piece. I knew I wanted this to be around go-to-market strategy. And so it came up with 5 distinct actions that I could then use. And so I thought like a good one, okay, running a targeted campaign, great. My next step would be, I would simply ask Claude, okay, based on your recommendation, help me create a campaign strategy that we can go to market with. And so it's just really powerful way to pull in that Klue data to just supercharge a lot of the work you're doing and a lot of the deep thinking research. So much valuable insights live in Klue, and then bringing it to life through your LLM is a great use case that I've started to play around with.
This one was so cool, Jenna. And I do want to call out, we've been playing around with this, thinking about where the Klue data plugs in. And Jenna did this without using Klue data as like a test as well. And she started to dig and realized it was kind of making up a few things. There were made up like win stories and buyer quotes. The moment that she pulled that data out, the Klue MCP data was not being used. And it started to take a bit of a mind of its own. So I think it's always a good reminder, all of us here, let's really review the things that AI is generating, but also when you have that kind of trusted data from Klue as well, in comparison to some of the nice looking, but a little suspect outputs that can come from it.
Totally. The trust is huge.
All right. Should we get our customers, the people that everyone's been waiting for, on stage to chat a little bit here? Yeah,
let's do it. Let's bring them out.
Drum roll, please. Welcome. We've got Jacques from 8x8 and Prathith from Sisense. What's going on, you two? How are we?
Doing well. This has been great. You made a really good point just then, Adam, about the trusted data sources and the AI hallucinations. And we've seen plenty of that when we're kind of adding in, some questions and not going back to a good source of truth, which I think is a big part of competitive intel, is having that right data.
Let me hear. Do you have any stories? Like, what are some moments you've gone through here in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. Let's see. Where do I start? No, I've done a lot where even just looking at competitive week to week and seeing, hey, what is coming out? What are our competitors saying within unified communications or contact center? And as a practice, just doing what I do, I actually like to read through the articles, let's say, that are coming out in the news. But even when you have that article, it can still hallucinate and say, it'll pull out, like you said, it will pull out a different quote. It'll make an incorrect conclusion about what that means. And I've seen that several times, actually. And it's worth noting, or let's say someone just got acquired, completely put the wrong dollar amount that was associated to it. And that's information that we need to kind of vet, because it goes out to sales. In my case, a lot of times it goes out to our executive team. So I have to make sure that's really buttoned up. So keeping the AI honest is a big important part of it.
Prathith, what does that look like in kind of your situation, or maybe some of the ways that you've been experimenting, like the importance of the accuracy and up-to-date intel?
Thank you, Adam. First of all, Jacques spoke about a very important example, and you spoke about the challenges of updating information yourself, right? You're swarmed with a lot of cards and everything, and you're trying to the constant change. So I think what I've been doing recently with the MCP server launch is kind of using Claude Code and Cowork, extracting some of the outdated information into Claude MD files. kind of reviewing it, updating it with the power of AI, and also writing that information back into the platform pretty easily. So that's been kind of a game changer, to be honest.
That one's really cool. That's an interesting one of like re-updating some of the assets that might be within Klue as well. Can you, Preeth, we talked about this when we were chatting as a prep call here, but I'd love for you to share one of like sort of the first workflows or things that you tackled as you were working with kind of the MCP server and some of the APIs.
Oh, yeah, sure. So as we all know, as most of the people here, as product marketers, we do the balancing act. Not only do we support the GTM teams, but we're, the onus is on us to kind of work with product teams to, shape up the roadmap. I think what's been really cool with the win and loss stories is kind of using that information and to find out, hey, where are we winning and where are we losing and what can we do to kind of, shape up that roadmap so that we can, win more deals. And like Jacques said, this information is completely grounded. Like we're not, doing guesswork on which, functionalities will yield actual revenue. We're using solid information, backing that up with examples so that the product team can kind of, prioritize their roadmap. Because, guess what? Everybody's building a lot of things like you said, and, prioritizing what customers want, require is definitely a key.
What's interesting as well with when you kind of share what you've done there is not only like showing why you've won and lost, but I if I'm correct, you were mentioning sort of like the frequency of how it was mentioned, like the total ACV or revenue attached to maybe a feature or an area of focus, right? In terms of what those like win and loss stories look like as well.
Oh yeah, I wish I could show the data. It's just proprietary. But not only that, right? Like you won't be even able to see the opportunities, the ACV. You can, with the power of AI, you can segment. Like let's say Klue has, or any company has 4 or 5 product verticals. It also segments that into the different categories and helps people, really analyze, hey, this is where we're losing, and this is where we need to, come up as a team. And this is where we're actually winning. So how can we double down on where we win, handle objections, and how can we better our roadmap? And not only in terms of product, right? Well, as a product marketer, when we're developing battle cards for information, this data is kind of invaluable. And I think like what Zach used and how Jenna was mentioning about the codes, then the actual rooted information. I think it's a really cool thing.
Jacques, on your end here, you mentioned sort of that sort of perspective of like, hey, as a CI analyst, as a pro marketing leader, like I can even pick apart some of these news articles. These are really important. I'm sharing them to the right stakeholders. And you can pick apart maybe the acquisition was the wrong value and things like that. Have you observed, or maybe I'm going to give you a little bit, trigger you a little bit here, but have you observed even other folks across the org that might be like looking at the the unfiltered data or going to AI without any verified truth and looking for answers, whether it's your reps or other folks in the org?
Yeah, I mean, I think the default for all of us right now, I mean, we've been playing around with this for, pretty solidly for about a year, but I think, as anyone who uses it, you kind of feel that temptation to let the AI just do its thing because it does it so quick and it sounds like it's correct. And I think what we've seen sometimes is, even from a sales perspective, it's kind of magnified because there is a faster need for it. I need this information right now because I'm on a deal. So trying to get that, and if you're just going to a chat GPT or whichever one else you use, it might give you some information that's either old, outdated, wrong. Sometimes it's stuff that hasn't been vetted yet and it's just kind of out there, or it's just fully on made up. So I have seen that. We're trying to rein a lot of that in. I think one of the good things is being able to pull that information centrally. The CRM data, whether it's what we have in Klue or whether it's something that we have, let's say, messaging from product marketing, and being able to marry all those together in a lot of different kind of steps and AI workflows so that when someone goes and tries to do that self-service model, it's taking that part, or at least mitigating how much of that kind of wrong information is going to come out.
I love that, Doc. I think you touched on something really critical, is how fast sellers move in those moments. Like they're like, I need this answer now. And so I'm going to just quickly search where to find it. And if they don't get that quick answer, like they'll have to make it up. They'll have to divert. So knowing that in those moments, they can route back to trusted answers in the tools they want to live in, that's like really powerful.
For sure.
We got a question here from Chloe, and it might actually relate back to Prathith, one of the use cases you were walking through of this sort of like product roadmap suggestions, areas of improvement, opportunities to double down on. She asks, how are you using the CI insights to then discover these net new customer problems and then use AI to potentially ship features faster? So maybe it's kind of this PMM relationship of like, are there opportunities, or are you thinking about how to build prototypes like based on this quickly to get something in front of the team to build on?
No, this is a phenomenal question, right? Like most of y'all know, it's not only about new business. It's about I think she's asking about customer retention and figuring out how we can kind of mitigate some of the issues. It's a really cool question. I think we're moving into the age of knowledge. There's something cool that I've been thinking about using not only Klue but also Gong and Salesforce APIs, to build an application to figure out, hey, what's going on with the implementation? How are they onboarding? Are they kind of getting the feedback that they need? Is there a drop off? Everyone, none of the CSMs need to get a surprise, right? At the time of renewal, hey, something's up. So there's some Isaac showed there's some really the landscape of competitive intelligence is definitely changing. So I think the more and more PMMs who are thinking about building these prototypes and apps using Cloud Code, integrating these different APIs or MCP servers depending upon their availability and tech stack, and kind of presenting this information not only to leadership but to customer success and sales as well.
For sure. I think that's the cool thing as well. When we like a lot of folks I've spoken to throughout years of Klue customers and folks in this profession, like a lot of deep research needs to get done. And then it's like, how do you actually move that into action? How do you actually like create change? How do you start to get stuff on the drawing board? And like, this is a great example of this deep kind of win and loss research, product roadmap gaps. And then you can mock up something quickly to sort of like move forward on, hey, this is where we could build next. Or this is like, you kind of iterate and build off of that. It's actually something our own PM has been doing with Klue, like sort of testing these, understanding how customers are receiving this, or maybe there's some problems or gaps that we need to address, and then just vibe code, mock something up, and then work with the product team of like, is this the path we want to take? Can we get this in front of customers quickly? So it allows us to learn very, very fast. I have a question for both of you about what's the next workflow you want to build? What's the thing you're excited about building next? Or like the outcome or business outcome you're trying to accomplish with it. So Jacques, maybe I'll flip it to you first.
Yeah, sure. I think Prathith really hit on a good point there as well, is being able to look at things kind of before they come up. I think competitive intelligence historically has always been very reactive. We're finally getting to a point where we might be able to take some of what we're typically doing and let's say outsource that, via AI, and then move in forward to looking at, hey, what is coming up? How do we get ahead of a customer renewal, for example? How do we know what's going wrong in a deal before that deal's even getting closer to that point? From a perspective of looking at what workflows, let's say in the next 12 months that I would be looking to use AI to automate, it's going to be a few things. One of which would be getting that sort of executive level competitive intel and market intelligence. Not just a snapshot of what it is, but how does that compare to what we saw a year ago or 3 months ago? And then trying to get ahead of it. What are we going to anticipate in the next 3 to 6 months, let's say? So getting that right now, that's a pretty time intensive process to get that all kind of wrapped up. I've automated probably about 80% of it. So I kind of want to move that even farther off and then start diving in, like Prathith was saying, like, can we jump into these deals, sort of more proactively and get ahead of that? I think that is where we'll see the big change. To Jenna's point, it's always moving very fast, and I think it's just going to continue to move faster. So as we can kind of lock down that basics of competitive intel and then leverage the AI to let us kind of go out further down, whether it's down the pipeline or get ahead of the market intelligence as it is.
What about yourself, Preet? What are you excited to build next?
And that's always an interesting question, right? So I used one of my examples previously, the Gong, Salesforce, and kind of the Klue combining into one sort of monster intelligence ecosystem. But one thing that that I actually got a light bulb and I've probably not used is it's actually very simple, is using the deep research mode in Klue to analyze data from the call alerts and everything, and kind of building battle cards for the CS folks. So I think that's something I could be doing a lot more and possibly using that information. But to all the PMMs out there, I think that's a cool way to kind of use case to kind of prevent churn and think of it that way. But there's so much you can do, Adam. I mean, it's not only the information, right? Like, imagine a seller like Zach is on a call, and on a live transcript, we're able to surface information to him so that he's able to kind of answer that questions on the go. So I think we're heading into a new age, and I'm cool to see what interesting people like Isaac and other people and are willing to build with N8N and Zapier or any of these workflow systems. So it's going to be fun.
Love that. Okay, I have a last question for you both before we wrap things up. Obviously, so much is changing in the way we're working and operating. I am curious to hear from both of you. What do you think today makes a great CI practitioner?
That is a tough one. I think there is, if I put it into two very simple buckets, you have to have the foundations of what good CI is. And I'm actually going to piggyback on what Chloe's saying in the chat right now with research being passive. I think it always has been, and it was very time intensive. And I think that's changing a lot. The other, sort of skill set that I think someone in this role needs is you need to be adaptive. Things are always changing fast, particularly in the tech industry. But with what AI is able to do is take some of that sort of passive research, which was very time consuming, and speed that up to a point where you can start jumping into how do we actually affect a deal, for example? How do we, let's say our company is going to acquire someone else. How do we make the best decision with that, with the market intelligence? So it is actually kind of branching off. I think the fundamentals still need to be sound. You still need to have good data. You need to have a good research focused mind. You always need to understand what sales is doing. That's very foundational. But then being able to leapfrog forward and take out that kind of, let's say, drudgery or that heavy, intense time, and start focusing on that just in time for sales, just in time for renewal, and really go beyond just that immediate competitive intelligence into the broader organization, essentially, which is, I think, was always the goal of competitive intel, was to have it across the entire organization, whether it's product or the GTM teams.
Totally. Scaling that reach, you're still the expert in the loop. Yeah.
Jacques hit on some of the points pretty well. So I think there's a reason why we as humans still exist, and it's not AI doing this webinar for us. So I think what's critical for us is CI professionals or product marketers is business strategy. Like, ultimately, like, I've been in my org for 5 years and I understand the analytics space pretty well. So how much you understand about the business that you're in, right from pricing or packaging, and what buyers actually need is going to be pretty crucial. So even as a seller, thinking of putting themselves in the shoe of who's going to buy. So that's definitely critical. So business strategy and kind of decision making, critical thinking, all those things that we read in a book and we don't think it matters, it's going to matter a lot now. So yeah.
Love it.
Well, Thank you, Prathith. Jacques, we've just come over time. Folks, if you stayed a little over, appreciate that. If folks want to reach out to you, Prathith and Jacques, where can they reach you? Where can they contact you if they got questions coming out of this?
Oh yeah, for me, probably my LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me. I'm usually pretty responsive on that, so that's an easy way for it.
Me too. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. I have a different name, so it's easier to find me, or I can drop my link into the chat. So yeah, happy to chat.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate both of you kind of sharing your expertise, where
Thank
you
you
see this
both.
going. Yeah, it's been
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
And thank you everyone for being in attendance, being active in the chat. I hope there's some fun stuff that you can take yourself. We're going to be building more and more. I think Prathith said it, kind of the limit does not exist on what we can build on top of this accurate data. And we'll be coming out with plenty more. So recording will be sent out, probably some more content, and stay tuned. Share with us what you're building too. Thanks so much. And
See you all
enjoy your
next time.
day.
Okay.